The mysterious warning. The universe was vast, filled with countless stars and planets, some teeming with life and others barren and silent. But among the many galaxies, there was one rule that all civilizations knew: never harm a human. No one understood why, but all the powerful species in the galaxy followed it without question. It was an unspoken law, and yet nobody knew where it came from or who made it. One quiet day, deep within the heart of the Galactic Council, a strange signal appeared on their monitoring systems. It wasn't the usual data they received from the various space explorations. This signal was different, urgent, powerful, and full of strange patterns. It seemed to carry an unknown message, one that couldn't be ignored. At first, the Council dismissed it as a glitch, just another random anomaly in the system. But when the signal persisted, they knew something was off. The chief officer, a tall, stern figure named Zoran, ordered the signal to be traced, hoping to uncover its source. As the technicians worked tirelessly, the signal became clearer, but its meaning was still a mystery. Then, something shocking happened. The signal began to speak. It wasn't in any language the Council had ever encountered. It was not words, but a series of flashing symbols. Patterns that carried meaning, but not in the way they expected. The symbols flickered rapidly, appearing and disappearing, almost as if they were trying to communicate with a language that no one knew how to read. The Council's chief translator, an experienced alien named Lyra, stepped forward. She had deciphered many languages in her time, but this was different. Her fingers hovered over the console, trying to find the pattern. After a few moments, a sense of unease washed over her. The symbols started to form into a message, but it wasn't what she expected. The message was simple yet chilling. Humans are off limits. Never harm them. The room fell silent. There was an eerie tension in the air. The Council members exchanged uneasy glances, their minds racing. They had heard of humans, of course. Everyone had. But they were just another species, unimportant in the grand scheme of the universe. So why this warning? Why such fear surrounding them? Zoran clenched his fists. "What does this mean?" he asked, his voice low and full of doubt. "Why are humans off limits?" Lyra stared at the signal, her heart racing. She knew the answer could change everything. There was no explanation in the ancient texts, no record of humans being anything special. They were supposed to be just another species. So why this mysterious law? Why the warning? "I don't know," Lyra admitted, her voice shaking. "But I think this signal is older than anything we've ever seen before." Zoran's brow furrowed. The Council had always believed they knew everything about the galaxy. They controlled the vast reaches of space, ruled over countless civilizations. And yet, here was something completely unknown, something that could threaten everything they had worked for. The Council decided to investigate further. The signal might hold the key to the biggest mystery the universe had ever known. But the more they uncovered, the more questions arose. What was so dangerous about humans? And why was everyone afraid to speak of them? As they analyzed the signal, it became clear that this wasn't an ordinary message. It had been sent from deep within the ancient and mysterious corners of the galaxy, places where even the most powerful species dared not venture. And it had been waiting for someone to decode it. The timing felt deliberate, as if the message was meant for them, and them alone. But who sent it? And why? Was it a warning from the past, or was something far more sinister at play? Zoran called for an emergency meeting. The members gathered in the Council chamber, their minds buzzing with confusion and fear. They could feel that something momentous was about to happen, and they were powerless to stop it. "Humans," Zoran muttered, his eyes narrowing. "What have they done to make everyone so afraid of them?" The answer seemed just out of reach, but the Council knew one thing for certain. They had to find out. They couldn't ignore this warning. They couldn't afford to let whatever this was pass by unnoticed. Too much was at stake. The signal had shown them the first piece of a puzzle, but the pieces were scattered across the universe, hidden in places no one dared to explore. And the Council was about to embark on a journey that would take them to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, uncovering secrets they were never meant to know. But one thing was certain: humanity was far more than anyone had ever imagined. And the Council's investigation would lead them into a darkness they weren't prepared for, one that would shake the very foundations of everything they believed. The warning had been given. The question was, would they listen? The days that followed the mysterious signal were filled with tension. The Galactic Council had not only received a warning, but also a challenge they hadn't expected. What they knew about humans was little more than vague rumors. But now, the universe was telling them to be cautious, to stay away from humans, and to never harm them. Zoran, the council leader, was determined to understand the true meaning behind the warning. His mind raced as he pondered what this could all mean. The message had been clear, but it raised even more questions. What power did humans possess that could scare even the most ancient and powerful civilizations? And why were they forbidden to harm them? The council decided to send a team of skilled scouts to Earth to investigate further. They would observe the humans quietly, looking for any signs of the mysterious power the warning had hinted at. The team, led by the seasoned explorer Nara, prepared for the journey. They knew that Earth was a planet filled with diverse life forms, but their mission was to focus solely on humans. The journey took only a few days, but it felt like an eternity. The team's ship arrived in Earth's orbit, and for the first time, they set their eyes on the planet's surface. It looked like any other habitable world: blue oceans, green forests, and sprawling cities. Nothing out of the ordinary, but the scouts knew better. There was something more to this place. Nara led the group down to Earth's surface, and they set up a temporary base in the wilderness, far from the major human cities. They would stay hidden, observing from the shadows. The team had strict orders to avoid any direct contact with humans, but that didn't stop them from studying everything they could. It didn't take long for them to realize that humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. While other civilizations they'd observed were advanced in technology, humans were something else entirely. They had a fierce resilience, a spirit that burned bright even in the face of danger. The team noted this with growing curiosity, but they were still unsure what the message had meant. On the 5th day of their observation, Nara decided to venture closer to a human settlement. She had to see for herself what made these creatures so dangerous. The scouts followed her at a distance, staying hidden in the trees as they watched a group of humans go about their daily lives. They were peaceful, content, and appeared harmless, at least on the surface. But as the scouts watched, something unexpected happened. A group of humans, unaware of the alien presence, found themselves in a dangerous situation. They were being attacked by a wild predator, an enormous creature with claws that could easily tear through metal. The humans were outnumbered, but they didn't run. Instead, they fought back with everything they had, using tools and strategies the aliens hadn't anticipated. Nara watched in awe as the humans displayed a form of bravery that was nearly impossible to understand. They fought not because they were strong, but because they had a deep, unshakable will to survive. They didn't back down. They didn't hesitate. It was as if they had an innate power within them, a drive to overcome any obstacle, no matter the cost. The alien team observed in silence, but they couldn't help but feel an eerie sense of dread. There was something about these humans, something that set them apart from any species they had encountered. The way they fought, the way they never gave up, it was unlike anything they had ever seen. After the battle, Nara signaled to the team to return to the ship. They had seen enough. But as they made their way back, something strange happened. One of the humans, a young man covered in dirt and blood, approached them. Nara's heart skipped a beat. How had he found them? It was impossible. They had been careful to remain hidden, to stay out of sight. The young man's eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, neither moved. It felt as if the world had stopped. Nara's mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. How could he see them? Could he somehow sense their presence? Then the human spoke. "I don't know who you are or what you want, but I know you're here," he said, his voice calm despite the danger. "I can feel it. You're watching us, but we're not afraid." Nara's pulse quickened. How could he possibly know? They had done everything right, everything to stay hidden. She stepped forward cautiously, her voice barely a whisper. "How did you know we were here?" The human smiled, his expression a mix of curiosity and something else. Something deeper, something ancient. "Humans always know when something's watching," he said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "And we know when something is different." Nara stepped back in shock. This wasn't just any human. There was something about him that felt off. Something beyond what the team had expected. And as the rest of the team watched from the shadows, they realized that perhaps the warning they had received was not just about avoiding humans. It was about the power humans held, a power they hadn't fully understood until now. The human turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving the team to question everything they thought they knew about their mission. The council had been right about one thing. Humans were different. But in what way? And why did it feel like this was just the beginning of something far bigger, something that could change the galaxy forever? The days that followed the mysterious encounter with the human left Nara and her team in a state of unease. The scout team had spent years on missions, but nothing had ever shaken them the way this brief interaction with the human had. The feeling of being watched, of something lurking just beneath the surface, wasn't something they had expected from a species considered to be primitive by the standards of galactic civilization. Back aboard their ship, Nara and the team tried to make sense of the strange incident. They analyzed the data, but nothing added up. The human had claimed he could feel their presence, but the sensors showed no signs of interference. The human's behavior was so out of place, and yet there was an unmistakable aura about him that made Nara feel as if they had just scratched the surface of a mystery far bigger than they could imagine. Nara had been ordered to observe, to learn, and to avoid interaction. But the closer they got to understanding these humans, the more questions arose. She had never encountered anything like it. The feeling of unease only grew stronger as the team discussed the warning they had received. "Are we really just observing a primitive species?" Nara asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Or is there something more to them?" One of the other scouts, Corin, raised his hand, his brow furrowed. "Maybe the warning wasn't just about physical harm. Perhaps we've misinterpreted it. Perhaps it's about something more metaphysical." Nara shot him a questioning look. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Corin replied, his voice low. "But what if it's their very existence that makes them dangerous? What if the human spirit is something that even the oldest civilizations fear?" The word hung in the air like a heavy fog. The thought of a species being dangerous simply because of its spirit was almost absurd. Yet there was something undeniable about what they had seen. Humans didn't seem to have the advantages of advanced technology, superior weapons, or even physical strength. What they had was something else, something that couldn't be measured or understood so easily. Nara had seen warriors in battle, fearless and strong. She had seen entire fleets fall before her eyes, but nothing compared to the resolve and unyielding courage she had witnessed in that young human. His actions had made her question everything she had known about strength. Unable to ignore the questions any longer, Nara decided to delve deeper. She instructed her team to head toward one of the human cities. It was time to learn more about what made humans so different. This time, they would observe from even closer. As the team set their course for the city, they couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The closer they got to the humans, the more they began to question whether they were doing the right thing. What if the council was wrong? What if they were about to uncover something that could shatter everything they thought they knew about the universe? They arrived at the city just as dusk fell, the lights of human civilization twinkling below them like a sea of stars. It was like nothing they had seen before, chaotic, vibrant, and teeming with life. The humans were everywhere, bustling about, unaware of the alien eyes watching them from above. Nara and her team silently landed in a remote area, blending into the shadows of the city. They had to stay hidden, but they couldn't help but be drawn to the humans. The atmosphere here was different from the wilderness. The air was thick with tension, but also with hope. There was a feeling of unrelenting energy in the air, a kind of urgency that could only come from the will of beings who refused to be defeated. As they moved deeper into the city, Nara's team began to notice something strange. It wasn't just the energy they could feel in the atmosphere, it was in the humans themselves. They seemed to move with purpose, their faces set with determination, their eyes glinting with an inner fire. They didn't seem to be afraid of anything. They followed a small group of humans who were gathered around an old, worn-down building. As they drew closer, they could hear voices, loud, angry, and full of passion. "It's not about the fight we've lost," a gruff man shouted, his fists clenched at his sides. "It's about the fight we still have to win." The words echoed through the quiet streets. Nara's team watched from the shadows as the man's words stirred the crowd into action. There was something about these humans, something raw and intense. Their drive, their tenacity. It was unlike anything Nara had ever seen. Suddenly, one of the humans turned and locked eyes with Nara's team. The alien scouts froze, their hearts racing. How could they have been detected again? The human's gaze was intense, as though he could see right through them, as if he knew they were there. But instead of running or showing fear, the human smiled. "You're not from around here, are you?" the human said in a calm, confident voice. Nara's heart skipped a beat. How did he know? Before she could react, the man continued, his smile widening. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You're not the first to watch us, and you won't be the last." The alien team felt a chill run through them. What was this human? How could he sense their presence? As they stood there, stunned and speechless, the man walked away, his voice lingering in the air. "Just remember this. Don't mess with humans. We've got nothing to lose. And that makes us dangerous." The message was clear. Humans were not afraid. They were not weak. And above all, they were not to be underestimated. As the team retreated back to their ship, they were left with even more questions than before. The warning they had received was not just about avoiding harm. It was a warning to stay away, to leave humans alone. Because something told them that if they didn't, they would learn just how dangerous these seemingly insignificant creatures could be. The night had fallen upon the city, casting long shadows over the alien scouts as they made their way back to their ship. Nara's mind raced with questions, each more disturbing than the last. The human's words echoed in her head like a warning bell. "Don't mess with humans. We've got nothing to lose. And that makes us dangerous." They had only been on the surface for a few hours, but already it seemed as though the humans were revealing themselves to be far more than anyone could have imagined. The calmness in the human's eyes, his direct gaze, it wasn't the look of someone fearful or unaware of danger. It was the look of someone who had been through unimaginable trials and had come out stronger for it. And that terrified Nara more than anything. As the team gathered aboard the ship, they couldn't help but feel the weight of what they had just witnessed. Corin, always the skeptic, was the first to speak. "Do you really think the humans are just a primitive species? There's something off about all this." Nara nodded slowly. "I think we've been wrong about them from the start. They're not like any species we've encountered before. Not by a long shot." "But what could make them so different?" Corin asked, his voice laced with disbelief. Nara didn't have an answer. There was no logical explanation for what they had seen. The humans' resilience, their unwavering belief in their own strength. It was almost as if they had access to something beyond the physical realm. Something ancient, buried deep within their history. And then a thought struck her like a bolt of lightning. "What if they're not just a species?" she murmured. "What if they're a relic of something far older? A civilization from the past that we've never even known about?" The team fell silent at her words. Could that be true? Could these humans be the descendants of something much more powerful? Something that had once ruled the galaxy before it faded into myth? The more Nera thought about it, the more the pieces started to fit together. The humans didn't have the same technology or military power as other species, but they did have something far more dangerous: knowledge. The kind of knowledge that could shatter the very foundation of everything the Galactic Council stood for. We need to find out more, Nera said, her voice resolute. We need to dig deeper into their history. If there's a secret hidden within their past, it's time we uncover it. The next morning, they set out to find the answers they needed. The team traveled to a distant location, one that held a long-forgotten human archive. The archive was hidden in a massive underground complex, buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. It was said to contain records from humanity's earliest days, before the rise of modern civilization. If there were any clues about the ancient secrets of the humans, this was where they would find them. As they approached the complex, the air seemed to thicken. The area was cloaked in silence, and the only sound was the faint hum of their equipment as it scanned the surroundings. The entrance was guarded by an advanced security system, one that the aliens had not encountered before. But that was not what unsettled Nera. It was the strange feeling in the pit of her stomach, the feeling that something was watching them. Nera pushed the thought aside and motioned for the team to move forward. They bypassed the security system and entered the complex. Inside, the atmosphere was cold, sterile, and lifeless. Rows upon rows of old computers, books, and artifacts were scattered across the chambers. But it was the ancient murals on the walls that drew Nera's attention. They depicted strange scenes, humans standing tall against monstrous creatures, wielding unimaginable power. There were symbols etched into the stone, symbols that seemed to pulse with energy, almost as if they were alive. One mural in particular caught Nera's eye. It showed a massive ancient ship rising from the depths of an ocean, surrounded by a storm of lightning and fire. The ship was enormous, its design far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. It was like nothing Nera had ever imagined. There was a sense of grandeur and destruction radiating from the image. "This ship," Nera whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This isn't just a weapon. It's a symbol of the power the humans once had." Her words hung in the air as the team stood frozen, staring at the mural. It wasn't just a ship. It was something far more significant. It was proof that humans had once wielded a power that could rival the greatest civilizations in the galaxy, a power that could destroy entire fleets, topple empires, and reshape the universe. But what had happened to this power? Why had the humans seemingly disappeared into obscurity? And more importantly, why had they been warned so forcefully? What was it about the humans that made them so dangerous? As the team continued to search through the archive, they uncovered more pieces of the puzzle. There were documents written in ancient languages, records of human expeditions to far-off planets, and even relics of forgotten technologies. It became clear to Nera that the humans' history was far more complex than anyone could have imagined. They had been explorers, conquerors, and builders of empires, but something had caused their downfall. And now, only a few remained, a shadow of their former selves. Nera couldn't shake the feeling that the humans were not just survivors. They were waiting for something that could awaken the dormant power within them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber, breaking Nera from her thoughts. The team rushed toward the source of the noise, only to find a massive door opening before them. The door was ancient, covered in dust, and had been sealed for centuries. But now it was wide open, revealing a hidden room inside. Inside the room was a large, glowing crystal. Nera's heart raced. She had seen crystals like this before, only in the oldest of legends. This crystal, it was said, held the key to unlocking the full power of the humans. If it was real, if they could harness its energy, it would change everything. But as Nera reached out to touch it, she was hit with a sudden surge of energy, so intense it nearly knocked her off her feet. The room seemed to tremble, and the air grew heavy. There was no turning back now. The universe's darkest secret was unfolding before them, and the humans were far more powerful than anyone had ever realized. The room hummed with a low, vibrating energy as Nera stood frozen, her hand still hovering over the glowing crystal. The air around her crackled with an intense force, almost as if the very fabric of reality was bending under the weight of its power. Her team stood back, equally stunned by the sudden surge of energy that seemed to pulse through the room. "What is this?" Corin asked, his voice barely audible over the hum of the crystal. His eyes were wide with awe and fear, as if he could sense the enormity of what they were standing before. Nera didn't have an answer. She had never encountered anything like this before. The crystal seemed ancient, its surface covered in runes and symbols that were unlike any writing she had ever seen. But there was something in the way it pulsed, something alive, almost sentient. It beckoned to them, as if calling them to awaken what had been dormant for centuries. It's a power," Nera said, her voice shaking slightly. "But it's not just any power. This is human power, the kind they were capable of before everything changed." The realization hit her like a thunderclap. The humans weren't just another species to be underestimated. They had once held dominion over unimaginable forces that could reshape the very universe itself. The crystal was a relic of that power, an artifact from an ancient time when humans ruled the stars. The silence in the room was thick, charged with the weight of the discovery. The team exchanged uneasy glances, each of them feeling the enormity of what they had uncovered. They had come seeking answers about the humans, but now they found themselves standing at the edge of something far darker and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Nera took a hesitant step forward, her hand finally touching the crystal. As soon as her fingers brushed against its smooth surface, a surge of energy shot through her arm, up her spine, and into her mind. Visions exploded in her consciousness. Images of vast fleets of ships, burning worlds, and ancient battles fought with weapons of unimaginable destruction. She saw humans standing at the center of it all, wielding their power like gods. But it wasn't the power that struck her most. It was the raw, unstoppable force of their will. They were relentless, driven by something deeper than mere conquest. They were driven by the need to survive, to protect their own, the need to dominate. And then the visions stopped. Nera pulled her hand away from the crystal, breathing heavily. Her heart raced, and her thoughts were scattered. What had she seen? Was it a memory, a vision from the past? Or was it something more, a warning? Corin moved toward her cautiously. "What did you see?" Nera struggled to find the right words. "I don't know." It was like a memory, but it felt like it was coming from the crystal itself. A vision of the past, of humans at their peak. But it wasn't just power. They were unstoppable, relentless. She could see the fear in Corin's eyes. Unstoppable. What do you mean? Nera didn't respond immediately. She was still trying to piece together what she had experienced. The humans hadn't just been powerful, they had been uncontainable. They had waged war on an unimaginable scale, reshaping entire galaxies, burning worlds, and leaving nothing behind but destruction. They had been the ultimate force of nature, a species with a purpose far greater than any other in the galaxy. But then, something had happened. The power had been lost, disappeared, and now, it seemed as though it was stirring once more. "There's more to this," Nera finally said, her voice quiet but filled with conviction. "The humans didn't just vanish. Something caused their downfall. Something took their power away. But now it's coming back." The room grew colder, as if the walls themselves could sense the danger in her words. The team looked at each other, the implications of Nera's discovery sinking in. Could the humans be on the verge of reclaiming their lost power? Could they rise again? And if they did, what would that mean for the galaxy? Nera shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. We need to understand this power. We need to find out why it was hidden, and why it's here now. The team quickly gathered their equipment and prepared to leave the ancient complex. The crystal's glow was fading, but its presence lingered heavy in the air. The answers they sought were close, but they also knew they had barely scratched the surface. The truth about the humans and the forbidden power they once wielded was still hidden, waiting to be discovered. As they made their way back to their ship, the weight of the situation pressed on Nera's chest. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were not just uncovering a forgotten past. They were awakening something that had been buried for a reason, something that could change the course of history itself. And as they boarded their ship, Nera looked out at the stars, wondering just how deep the mystery of the humans went. What had they lost? What had they become? And most importantly, what would happen when they finally regained what they had once lost? The answers were out there, hidden in the dark corners of the universe, and they were going to find them. But the more they uncovered, the more Nera feared one thing above all else. What if the humans weren't the ones who needed to be protected? What if the galaxy itself was the one in danger? As they flew away from the ancient complex, Nera couldn't help but wonder if they had just unleashed something far greater than they could control. And if they had, would they be ready for the consequences? Nera sat in the command seat, her hands gripping the console tightly as she stared at the blinking lights in front of her. The ship cut through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming softly beneath her feet. Yet, despite the peaceful sounds surrounding her, her mind was anything but calm. She couldn't shake the haunting image of the crystal, nor the visions it had shown her. What did it all mean? Why had the humans vanished? Why had their power been buried? And now, what was it that was awakening once again? Her thoughts were interrupted by the crackling of the comm system. Corin's voice filled the air, tense and urgent. "Nara, you need to see this. We've picked up something on the radar. Something big." Without a second thought, Nara stood and hurried to the back of the bridge, where Corin stood at the console, his eyes fixed on the screen. He pointed to a small blip on the radar, which was rapidly growing in size. "It's moving toward us. Fast. It doesn't look like any ship we've encountered before," Corin said, his voice laced with a mix of curiosity and concern. Nera narrowed her eyes, studying the screen. The shape of the object was irregular, almost as if it wasn't designed for any conventional purpose. It had no clear markings, no sign of allegiance. But one thing was certain. It wasn't just any ship. It was massive, its sheer size dwarfing anything they had ever seen. "It's coming straight for us," Corin said, his fingers flying across the control panel to adjust their trajectory. Nera's heart raced. Could it be the humans? Had they discovered their location? Could the power they had unlocked be calling them? "We need to prepare," Nara ordered, her voice sharp. "Set course for the nearest outpost. If this is them, we need backup." The crew moved quickly, each member aware that what lay ahead could be far more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. The radar blip grew larger with each passing second, the ominous ship closing in. As they made their way toward the outpost, Nera's mind raced. What was it that was driving this mysterious vessel? Was it truly the humans, or had something else taken their place in the galaxy? The questions flooded her thoughts, but there was no time for answers now. They were approaching the unknown, and there was no turning back. The ship was only moments away from entering the outer atmosphere of the outpost, but Nera could already sense the change in the air. The comm system crackled to life again, but this time, it wasn't Corin speaking. The voice that emerged from the speaker was deep, resonant, and chilling. "Do not resist. You have awakened what should have remained silent." The voice echoed through the ship's halls, sending a cold shiver down Nera's spine. She froze, unable to move as the words sank in. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The response came almost immediately, and the voice seemed to grow louder, as if emanating from everywhere at once. "We are the remnants of the humans. You have awakened what was meant to be forgotten. Prepare yourselves." Nara's eyes widened in shock. The humans. It was them. Somehow, they had returned, or at least their remnants had. She had felt it earlier when she touched the crystal. The power, the force that had once been theirs. But this was something different. Something darker. "We need to leave now," Nara said, her voice urgent. "Get us out of here, Corin. Full speed ahead." But it was too late. The ship shuddered violently, throwing the crew against their seats. The lights flickered, and the power systems began to fail. They were being pulled, not by a force of gravity, but by something far more sinister. It was as if the very fabric of space was being twisted, pulling them toward the massive vessel. The controls were no longer responding, and all attempts to break free only made the pull stronger. Their power, it's not just physical, Corin gasped, his face pale. They're manipulating the very fabric of space. We can't escape. Nara's mind raced. The ancient power of the humans was alive. But what had they become? What kind of force could manipulate space itself? The comm system crackled again, and the same voice spoke, cold and merciless. "You will join us. There is no escaping what has been set in motion. The time of the humans has come again. You will witness the return of what should have remained forgotten." The ship lurched again, and Nara gripped her console tightly as the sound of metal groaning echoed through the halls. They were being drawn closer to the unknown ship, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Hold on," Nara shouted, her voice filled with determination. She wasn't going to give up so easily. They had come too far, uncovered too many secrets. Whatever this new force was, they weren't going to face it unprepared. But as the ship was drawn into the depths of space, closer to the looming vessel, Nara couldn't help but feel a sinking sense of dread. They had awakened something far beyond their understanding, and they were about to learn just how dangerous it truly was. The cold grip of fear settled over the crew as the ship continued to be pulled towards the massive vessel. Each passing second seemed to stretch longer than the last, and the oppressive silence that filled the cockpit was almost suffocating. Nara's mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and urgency. What had they unleashed? What was this force that controlled the very fabric of space? The voice from the comm system crackled again, its cold tone reverberating through the ship's hull, making every word seem heavier than the last. "You have no choice but to witness what has been set in motion," it said. "The awakening is inevitable." Nara slammed her fist against the console in frustration. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice thick with desperation. "What do you want from us?" The voice didn't answer immediately, and for a moment, Nara thought they might be ignored. But then the words came, slow and deliberate, as though the speaker was savoring every syllable. "We are the remnants of humanity, long thought lost. Buried beneath the weight of time and the stars, you have awakened us, and now you will bear witness to what lies beyond." The words sent a chill down Nara's spine. Remnants of humanity. She had always believed the humans were gone, lost to history, to myth, and to the unrelenting march of time. But now it seemed the impossible had come to pass. They were alive, or at least their power was. Before she could respond, the ship shuddered violently, and the lights flickered once more. Nara's hands flew to the controls, but the ship didn't respond. It was as if they were no longer in control, as if the mysterious vessel was pulling them along like a ship caught in the wake of a massive storm. Corin, his face pale, struggled to regain his composure. "It's no use. The gravitational pull of that ship is unlike anything we've ever encountered. We can't escape." The comm system crackled again, but this time, the voice was different, more menacing, more final. "Do not resist. You will come to understand that your kind is off limits. You have awakened a power far beyond your comprehension." The words hung in the air, thick with foreboding. Nara's heart raced as she turned to Corin, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What does it mean? What is this power?" Before Corin could respond, the ship jerked violently once again. The view outside the viewport had changed. No longer was there the vast emptiness of space, but an enormous ancient structure. The ship they were being pulled toward. It wasn't just any ship. It was a relic, older than anything they had ever encountered, and its sheer size seemed to defy logic. It had been hiding out there for centuries, maybe even millennia, and they had just stumbled upon it. As they drew closer, a cold, unnatural energy filled the air. Nara could feel it deep in her bones, a presence that radiated power, knowledge, and something far darker. The ship loomed larger with each passing moment, its twisted design almost alien in its complexity. The closer they got, the more the walls seemed to vibrate, the air thick with an unspoken force. "We don't have much time," Nara said urgently, turning to her crew. "We need to prepare for whatever comes next." But just as she spoke, a brilliant flash of light filled the room. The power systems flickered, and the ship lurched violently, as if the very structure of space had bent to the will of the mysterious force. Through the viewport, they saw something. Someone, standing on the bridge of the massive ship. The figure was cloaked in shadow, their features impossible to discern, but the presence they exuded was undeniable. A dark aura seemed to radiate from them, and with it, a chilling sense of inevitability. The voice from the comm system spoke again, this time carrying an unmistakable finality. "You have come to understand the truth, and now you must face the consequences." Nara's breath caught in her throat as she realized what was happening. This wasn't just a warning. This was the beginning of something far more terrifying. The humans, or whatever was left of them, had returned, and they weren't the peaceful, curious beings they once were. No, this was something far darker, a force that had been dormant for far too long, and now it had been awakened. With the unknown figure staring down at them from the looming ship, Nara felt a cold, suffocating weight settle over her. There was no escape from what was coming. Whatever the remnants of humanity had become, whatever had been unleashed, it was already too late. They were caught in its grip, and there was no turning back now. The ship's systems powered down completely, and the crew was plunged into darkness. But just as the silence threatened to swallow them whole, a single word echoed across the comm system, a word that would haunt Nara's every thought from that moment on. "Prepare."